I've been missing Terry Pratchett a lot for the last week. First of all, on, I think it was Friday night, it all seems so long ago, and it was Friday night, we were in a cemetery in Hollywood, screening Good Omens, the first episode, for 3,000 people. And there were singing nuns and angels, and I'm just like, Terry, you should be here. And then today, Douglas McKinnon, the director, and I walked to the town hall from our hotel, and we took a sort of rather circuitous route that just accidentally, no particular reason, took us via Broadway and 51st, where there is a block-long Good Omens poster. And we looked at it. And we took photographs of each other in front of it. And again, it was just like, oh, you bastard, you're not here. You'd love this. That's what it's all for.
That was one of my questions for you is, as you got to go through seeing this project realized, how present was Terry? Were there, was he represented with you, and in what way on the set, in the decision making? Did you get into any arguments?
We didn't get into any arguments, or at least the ghostly Terry on my shoulder would state his position and then not argue. Which made it worse, actually. It was very strange. Mostly I felt Terry during the writing process, because all of a sudden I'm down there in the words going, that's one of my sentences, that's one of your sentences, you would have liked it if I took this bit. This is that thing that we talked about with angels, and now I'm making this happen, and you'll like that. I know you won't like that, you're dead. And that kept happening. There was a point in episode 6 in particular, where I'd been trying to figure out a plot thing for about a month. And I missed Terry more than anything, because when we were writing Good Omens, if I got stuck, it was easy, I'd phone Terry. Or sometimes I'd just send him what I'd done that far, and he'd carry on with it, and that was easy. Sometimes he would be really irritating and say, the problem, grasshopper, is in how you phrase the question, and that is also the solution to the problem. And I'm like, don't give me that, just tell me what we're doing. And so I remember my frustration at not being able to call him, and then it turned and I figured it out. And my frustration at not being able to phone Terry and say, I've solved it. I know how it's going to work. I've figured out the end. It's all going to work now. Was again horrible. But I mean, we had Terry things all the way through. Aziraphale's bookshop has Terry's hat and scarf hanging just there. There's a little display of Terry Pratchett books as well. The saddest moment for me was I wrote a scene because Terry and I had been talking for years. I mean, as soon as we started talking about making Good Omens, Terry explained to me that what we were going to do was make sure there was a scene in a sushi restaurant, and we were going to be the extras, we were going to be the background talent on screen, eating all the sushi we wanted all day while they were shooting it. Now, given that things have to be shot and reshot, this may seem unlikely to any of you two, but bear in mind that Terry and I once met for dinner in, I think it was 1999, in Minneapolis, when Terry was at a convention, and we went to a little sushi place that had sushi on boats going round as a kind of all-you-can-eat sushi thing, and you stop the boat, you take a little plate off it, and the sushi chef got so tired of us that he just decided he was going home. And he made something that looked a lot like the Leaning Tower of Yellowtail, brought it over to us, and then went home. We are talking feeding time in the Walrus House. So I wrote that scene and wrote it in episode 1. Was thrilled by it. Was kind of vaguely looking forward to actually, well, okay, Terry won't be there, but I'll be there for him and we'll get somebody else in it. And when it came to shoot that scene, I'm like, I can't do this. We got some other people in to happily eat sushi for hours. And I stayed in the back and was just kind of glum and melancholy, and suddenly Terry's absence became very real again. It was just like, no, we're never gonna sit and eat sushi again and put the world to rights.
Well, that's very moving to imagine, and it makes sense. I mean, the fact that you collaborated, the two of you put your talents together to create this book, published 29 years ago. At the time, could you have imagined, now it seems like you had a certain prescience, but do you feel like it's still relevant? The sort of looking at the state of the world when you wrote it, and if the world was...
When we wrote the book, we actually had to, I remember we went and shoved a line in about somebody talking about how unlikely it was that we were heading towards Armageddon when everybody was getting on so well. Because we were writing this in '89 and the Berlin Wall had come down, and universal peace, people were saying, history is over, and we're going, really lousy time to do our Armageddon story, but frankly, right now, I would trade anything to be doing interviews saying, well, I know it's a very bad time and an unlikely time to be doing Armageddon stories. Everyone's just like, yeah, that's a bit on the nose. Sorry about that. I wish that any of the elements in the book had actually become less so, but the Japanese have now started whaling again. The rainforests are disappearing even faster than they were 30 years ago. There's nothing that you can point at and go, yes, well, at least we fixed that one in 30 years of human progress. As far as I can tell, we've had amazing progress in things like CGI.
So while it's a very good book, you don't feel like it worked?
I do like the idea that one of the things that we were telling each other while we were making this was that it's a really good you know, showing people in a story that it's okay not to fight a war, that the avoidance of war can often be much better than proudly winning a war and lots of people happen to be dead. Showing people, you know, that the fundamental idea in Good Omens is, for me, is still that point where, you know, they say to Adam when he's in all his power, you know, you can bring back the whales and things, and he says, I think it's important that people understand that when you kill a whale, what you've got now is a dead whale. All of that seems relevant, and I'm glad that I get to bring whatever messages there are in there to a huge, wide, enormous Amazon world-size audience.
I couldn't agree more. There's one of my favorite passages in the book, if you'll indulge me briefly.
I will.
Goes something like this. Human beings aren't necessarily evil, they just get carried away by new ideas, like dressing up in jackboots and shooting people, dressing up in sheets and lynching people, or dressing up in tie-dye jeans and playing guitars at people. Offer people a new creed with a costume, and their hearts and minds will follow. Can you think of any modern equivalent?
I wish that 26-year-old Neil Gaiman, who wrote that, maybe 27-year-old Neil Gaiman, who wrote that paragraph, had been so wrong. And instead, I don't know, I was in Washington, D.C. a couple of weeks ago doing an event and taking Ash, my 3-year-old, around the Natural History Museum and seeing all these proud, happy, you know, excited teenagers wearing their white Make America Great Again hats because they were off to Washington, D.C. and it's like, oh, no, it's not what you think. You know, this is, and yeah, offer people costumes.
At least my people make beer.
Your people make fine beer, and they send enormous travelers out to find people lost in the snow and give them beer, which, frankly, I think is, you know, about as good as it gets. Actually, I think it's brandy in those little kegs, isn't it?
I think so.
I think so. It's probably a good thing those dogs can't actually get into them on their own, but one day they'll collaborate.
So, you know, some of the reality here has a bleakness to it, but I always find your writing in general, but particularly this book, to be an optimistic advertisement for human beings.
Absolutely. I mean, that was, you know, the lovely thing about Terry and me is we were both fundamentally optimists. We actually, we like human beings. We think they're really smart. We think they can get themselves into a lot of trouble. But we also think that actually, a lot of the time, they can get themselves out of trouble by doing the right